And there was so much to be done and so much for people to do with me that I lost my perspective, and that...
What if the people you laughed with every week were hiding something that would make your stomach drop? Some of the most beloved sitcom stars in television history were carrying secrets so dark, so explosive, that when the truth finally came out, it did not just end their careers. It ended everything. These are the stories Hollywood tried to bury. Here are 20 sitcom stars whose dark secrets destroyed their careers. 1. Bill Cosby.
Bill Cosby, and he can't take his eyes off Sofia Vergara.
Men look at you and they think only of sin.
Bill Cosby was America's dad. For a generation, Cliff Huxtable was the gold standard of fatherhood. The Cosby Show was the #1 sitcom in America for 5 consecutive seasons. What the public did not know was that for decades, going back to the 1960s, dozens of women had been telling the same story privately, that Cosby had drugged and assaulted them. The industry knew. Journalists had written about it. The stories were suppressed every single time. It was not until 2014, when a comedian mentioned it in a stand-up set and a clip went viral, that the dam broke. More than 60 women came forward. His own deposition from 2005 was unsealed, in which he admitted to obtaining quaaludes to give to women. He was convicted in 2018. The conviction was later overturned on procedural grounds, and he walked free. The man who played America's perfect father had been hiding one of the most predatory secrets in entertainment history behind that image for 50 years. 2. Michael Richards.
What is your favorite Kramer moment, if you have one?
When I'm into the physical comedy.
Michael Richards built one of the most celebrated comedic characters in television history as Kramer on Seinfeld. His physical comedy was genuinely brilliant. His career after Seinfeld never found the same footing, but he remained beloved by millions who remembered Kramer with total affection. Then on November 17, 2006, he was performing stand-up at the Laugh Factory in Los Angeles when a heckler interrupted his set. What came out of his mouth next ended his career in real time. He screamed racial slurs at the black members of the audience, including references to lynching. The room went silent. People recorded it. Within hours, it was everywhere. His appearance on Late Show with David Letterman to apologize, with Jerry Seinfeld sitting beside him looking deeply uncomfortable, became one of the most awkward moments in television history. He was not a stand-up who pushed dark boundaries. He was a sitcom star who revealed something ugly when he lost his temper. The career never recovered. Kramer was all that remained. 3. Roseanne Barr.
Yeah, there's even something, even just the couch is kind of
Yeah.
like comfort food. When you just see the Roseanne couch, you go, oh yeah, I know
We
this.
had to rebuild everything because they threw it out because we didn't think we'd ever come back.
Roseanne was one of the most groundbreaking sitcoms in the history of American television. It ran for 9 seasons in its original form, was revived in 2018 to enormous ratings, and Roseanne Barr was the undisputed center of all of it. Then on May 29, 2018, about 2 months into the revival's run, she sent a tweet comparing Valerie Jarrett, a black woman who had served as a senior advisor to President Obama, to a character from Planet of the Apes. ABC canceled the show within hours, not days. Hours. The cancellation was so fast, it sent a message to every network and studio in Hollywood about what the tolerance threshold now was. The cast and crew, hundreds of people who had nothing to do with the tweet, lost their jobs immediately. The show was later revived as The Connors, with the character of Roseanne killed off. She had spent 30 years building that show. One tweet destroyed it before the first season of the revival had even finished airing. 4. Charlie Sheen. Search_query or Charlie +2 plus and +half plus men plus interview. Charlie Sheen was the highest paid actor on American television, earning $1.8 million per episode on 2.5 Men. The show was a monster hit, and Sheen seemed untouchable. Then in 2011, everything detonated at once. He went to war publicly with the show's creator, Chuck Lorre, calling him by his birth name as an insult in increasingly erratic interviews and social media posts. He declared himself to be winning while conducting what looked from the outside like a complete mental breakdown in real time. He launched a live tour called the Torpedo of Truth that was booed off the stage in multiple cities. He was fired. The show replaced him with Ashton Kutcher and continued for 4 more seasons without him. Then in 2015, he disclosed on the Today Show that he was HIV positive, revealing he had hidden the diagnosis for years while continuing relationships. He said he had paid millions to people to keep the secret. The career was already gone. The disclosure ended what little remained. 5. Paul Reubens. Paul Reubens created one of the most original and beloved characters in American entertainment. Pee Wee Herman had his own Saturday morning television show and a successful film franchise. Children adored him. Parents trusted him completely. On July 26, 1991, he was arrested for indecent exposure in an adult theater in Sarasota, Florida. He was 38 years old. The career collapsed overnight. CBS immediately pulled his show from the air. Toy companies suspended merchandise. The character of Pee Wee Herman, a man-child beloved by children, could not survive that specific accusation even for a single news cycle. He eventually staged a comeback through stage performances and later television guest appearances that were received warmly. But the original career, the television show, and the cultural phenomenon he had built was gone by the following morning. One arrest in one theater destroyed a decade of work instantly and completely. 6. Tim Allen. Tim Allen became one of the most successful sitcom stars of the 1990s with Home Improvement and later Last Man Standing. But there was a chapter of his life that he kept very quiet and that most of his audience never knew about. In 1978, before his career began, he was arrested at Kalamazoo Battle Creek International Airport in Michigan with over 650 grams of cocaine in his luggage. That is a quantity that carried a mandatory sentence of life in prison in Michigan at the time. He cooperated with authorities. He gave up the names of other people in the supply chain. Because of his cooperation, he served just over 2 years before being released. He built his entire comedy career in the years that followed without the public knowing any of it. The story eventually became known, and when it did, it reframed the blue-collar, everyman image he had carefully constructed. He had been one cooperation deal away from dying in prison before he was ever famous. 7. Stephen Collins. Stephen Collins played Reverend Eric Camden on Seventh Heaven for 11 seasons. He was the moral center of a show built entirely around Christian family values. He was one of the most trusted father figures on American television. In 2014, an audio recording made during a therapy session was leaked to the press. On the recording, Collins could be heard describing acts of child sexual abuse involving multiple underage girls over several decades. He had disclosed it in therapy as part of a divorce proceeding. The recording was never meant to be public. His wife released it during their divorce. When the tape became public, Hallmark Channel immediately pulled reruns of Seventh Heaven off the air. Investigation Discovery canceled a documentary he was involved in. He was dropped by his agency and management within hours. He later acknowledged the conduct publicly. The Reverend, who had preached morality to millions from a television pulpit, had been hiding something monstrous behind it for his entire career. 8. Danny Masterson. Danny Masterson played Hyde on That 70s Show, the cool, effortlessly funny character that audiences loved through 8 seasons. He was a practicing Scientologist, and accusations against him had been circulating for years, suppressed in part through what accusers described as pressure from the Church of Scientology on victims not to go to police. Multiple women reported being drugged and raped by him. The Los Angeles Police Department opened an investigation in 2017. Netflix dropped him from his show The Ranch in 2017 as the accusations became public. He was formally charged with rape in 2020. His first trial ended in a hung jury. He was retried and in 2023 he was convicted on 2 counts of rape and sentenced to 30 years to life in prison. The character of Hyde had been cool and untouchable. The man who played him is serving 30 years to life. That is the actual distance between the character and the person. 9. Bob Crane. Bob Crane played Colonel Hogan on Hogan's Heroes with charm and comic authority that made him one of the most familiar faces in American television. But he had a secret life that ran completely parallel to his public image. He was obsessed with recording his own sexual encounters on video, a compulsion that took over his life after the show ended and consumed most of his waking hours. His close partner in this secret world was a video equipment salesman named John Carpenter. By the late 1970s, his career was fading and the double life was fraying. On June 29, 1978, he was found bludgeoned to death in his Scottsdale apartment. His skull had been crushed. John Carpenter was the primary suspect and was eventually tried for the murder. He was acquitted. The case was never officially solved. The secret world Bob Crane had built while the cameras were pointed elsewhere was almost certainly the reason he died. Nobody was ever held accountable for it. 10. Brett Butler. Brett Butler created and starred in Grace Under Fire, a show that consistently ranked in the top 10 and made her a genuine television star. She played a woman recovering from addiction and an abusive marriage with sharp humor and real emotional honesty. What the audience did not know was that the addiction storyline was not entirely fictional. Her dependency on Vicodin and other substances was escalating behind the scenes throughout the run of the show. Her behavior on set became erratic and unpredictable. Production was delayed repeatedly. Her co-star John Paul Linton, the teenager playing her son, quit the show because of working conditions on set. By the 5th season, ABC had had enough and canceled the show in 1998. The money was gone quickly. She moved to a farm in Georgia and spent years in near poverty and genuine obscurity. She eventually got sober and returned to acting in small roles, but the show she built was destroyed by the secret it was partially built on. 11. Gilbert Gottfried. Gilbert Gottfried had one of the most recognizable voices in American entertainment. He was a regular presence on sitcoms, game shows, and comedy specials for decades. He was also the voice of the Aflac Duck, a gig that paid him extremely well for years. On March 14, 2011, just 3 days after the earthquake and tsunami that killed nearly 16,000 people in Japan, he posted a series of jokes about the disaster on Twitter. Aflac fired him the same day. The company did approximately 75% of its business in Japan. The jokes were genuinely offensive by any reasonable measure, and the timing was beyond comprehension. He lost the most lucrative single voice acting contract in the country in one afternoon. He continued performing stand-up and making appearances, but the mainstream commercial career that had supported him for decades was gone. He died in 2022. The Aflac firing remained the loudest single moment of his public life outside of his actual comedy. 12. Matthew Perry. Matthew Perry played Chandler Bing on Friends for 10 seasons and was one of the most beloved sitcom performers of his generation. What the audience watching all of that did not fully know was how much of those 10 years Perry spent in active addiction. He later wrote in his memoir that he could not remember 3 entire years of filming Friends because of the substances he was consuming. He was hospitalized multiple times during the show's run for reasons described publicly as something other than what they actually were. He spent the decades after Friends, in and out of treatment, honest about it in his final years, in a way that was genuinely moving. He was found dead in his hot tub in October 2023 at 54. The cause was acute effects of ketamine. He had been receiving ketamine infusion therapy for depression and anxiety. He hid the depth of his struggle for so long that even people closest to him did not fully understand what the years had cost him. 13. Andy Dick. Footage search, https:/www.youtube.com/results, search _query +Andy +Dick +News Radio +Interview. Andy Dick was a genuinely funny and chaotic presence on news radio and in the broader comedy world for years. But a pattern of behavior well beyond eccentric had been documented long before it finally ended his career. He was arrested for drug possession multiple times. He was accused of sexual misconduct by multiple people over multiple years. He was fired from multiple projects for on-set conduct. In 2017, he was dropped from a film after groping accusations from colleagues. In 2018, he was arrested for felony sexual abuse. In 2022, he was arrested again for sexual assault. He became someone that networks and studios would not hire regardless of what work he could produce. He never successfully separated his comedic talent from a pattern of conduct that made him impossible to employ. His career did not end with a single explosion. It ended with years of documented accumulation that nobody in the industry was willing to overlook anymore. 14. Shelley Long. Footage search https:/www.youtube.com/results. Search Diane plus Chambers plus interview. Shelley Long played Diane Chambers on Cheers and was genuinely brilliant in the role. She won an Emmy and was the original heart of one of the best sitcoms ever made. Then she made one of the most discussed career decisions in television history. She left Cheers voluntarily after 5 seasons at the absolute peak of the show's popularity to pursue a film career that did not materialize. Cheers went on for 6 more seasons without her, won multiple additional Emmy Awards, and ended as one of the most celebrated shows in television history. Her replacement, Kirstie Alley, won an Emmy for the same role Long had left. The dark secret here is not a scandal. It is the private knowledge of having walked away from something irreplaceable to chase something that was not there. She has spoken about it with honesty over the years. The decision haunts her legacy in a way that nothing she filmed afterward has been able to change or undo. 15. Scott Baio. Footage search https:/www.youtube.com/results. Search_query Scott ++ days + Chachi + interview. Scott Baio was one of the biggest teen stars of the 1980s. Happy days. Joni loves Chachi. Charles in Charge. His face was on posters in bedrooms across America. In 2017, the actress Nicole Eggert, who had co-starred with him on Charles in Charge, publicly accused him of sexually abusing her when she was a minor during the run of the show. She said the abuse began when she was 14 years old. Other women from his past made additional accusations of misconduct. Baio denied everything. An investigation by the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department was opened but ultimately closed without charges due to the statute of limitations. The accusations resurfaced his behavior toward women throughout his career in ways that reframed the charming teen idol image entirely. He was already largely a fringe figure in Hollywood by that point. The accusations confirmed to the industry that he was someone they had been right to move on from. 16. Dustin Diamond. Footage search https:/www.youtube.com/results. Search_query_Dustin + Screech + saved +by+the +bell +interview. Dustin Diamond played Screech on Saved by the Bell and was a core part of a cast that millions of people grew up watching. After the show ended, his path diverged completely from his co-stars. He released a tell-all book in 2009 called Behind the Bell that was filled with allegations about his castmates, including claims of rampant drug use and sexual behavior among the teenage actors. His former cast members universally denied the stories, and several described them as fabricated. The book torched every relationship he had from the show. In 2014, he was involved in a bar fight in Wisconsin, during which a man was stabbed with a knife Diamond had on him. He was convicted and served time in jail. By the time the Saved by the Bell reboot was produced, he was the only original cast member not invited back. He was diagnosed with terminal cancer in 2021 and died within weeks. He spent his final years entirely estranged from the people who had been his closest professional family. 17. Paul Lynde. Footage search, https:/www.youtube.com/results, search ++ Bewitched + interview. Paul Lynde was one of the sharpest comedic minds in American television. Hollywood Squares. Bewitched. His wit was completely his own, and his timing was legendary. But the dark secret in Paul Lynde's career was the one the industry built around him. In 1965, a young actor named James Davidson fell from a hotel window in San Francisco after spending time with Lynde. Davidson died. The studio worked aggressively to keep it off the front pages and away from anything that could be directly connected to Lynde. The story was suppressed with remarkable effectiveness. Lynde continued working for another 17 years. He drank heavily throughout. He was known by those around him as deeply lonely. He died alone in his Beverly Hills home in 1982 at 55 of a heart attack. What the studio buried in 1965 was the secret that defined the invisible walls around his entire career. He performed brilliantly inside those walls for 17 more years without ever being able to step outside them. 18. Charles Rocket. Footage search, https:/www.youtube.com/results, search _query _Charles + Rocket + SNL + Saturday + Night + Live. Charles Rocket joined Saturday Night Live in 1980 as part of the cast brought in after the original legendary lineup departed. On February 21, 1981, at the end of a live broadcast, he said the F word on live national television. It was not a bit. It was not planned. He was fired within weeks along with most of the new cast. He spent 2 decades rebuilding a career in television and film that was quieter but genuine. Then on October 7, 2005, he was found in a field near his home in Connecticut with his throat cut. The medical examiner ruled it a suicide. He was 56. The method was so extreme that it overshadowed everything he had accomplished in the quarter century after Saturday Night Live. He is remembered for 2 moments: an accidental word on live television in 1981, and how he died in 2005. 24 years of rebuilding meant nothing against those 2 facts. 19. Gary Coleman. Footage search, https:/www.youtube.com/results, search _query for Gary + Coleman + different + strokes + adult + interview. Gary Coleman's dark secret was not one he chose to keep. It was one that was kept from him. During his years as the biggest child star on American television, his parents and former manager were systematically draining the fortune his work had generated. By the time he discovered the full extent of what had happened, the money was largely gone. He sued his parents and won, but the legal settlement returned only a fraction of what had been taken. The betrayal shaped everything that came after. He was working as a security guard to pay bills while people recognized him from television. He was arrested for punching a woman who approached him in a parking lot for an autograph. He filed for bankruptcy twice. He gave interviews from a position of anger that was completely legitimate, but that the public found uncomfortable. He died in 2010 at 42. The secret that destroyed his life was not something he did. It was something that was done to him by the people who were supposed to protect him. 20. Corey Haim. Footage search, https:/www.youtube.com/results, search _query Corey + Haim + actor + interview + 2 + Corey's. Corey Haim was one of the biggest teen stars of the 1980s, and the dark secret that destroyed his life was not his to keep. He was sexually abused by men with power over him in the entertainment industry when he was a teenager. He said so directly in the years before his death. His best friend and fellow child star Corey Feldman said the same thing, naming the industry's culture of abuse as the root of both their addictions. Haim spent his adult life in and out of rehabilitation, unable to fully stabilize, while the men who had abused him continued working in Hollywood without consequence. He died in March 2010 at 38 from pneumonia complicated by drug use. The secret that destroyed Corey Haim's career and ultimately his life was not his own. It belonged to the industry that created him, exploited him, and then watched him spiral without ever being held to account for what it had done.